Welcome to the Dan Sports Tips NFL preview for week 12 of the NFL season, week 13 of the college football season. Happy Thanksgiving to all my American viewers. I'm going to be running through the NFL games, two of them on Thanksgiving and one for Sunday, and my college football picks that my ratings have thrown up for this week. I'm going to jump straight in with the Thanksgiving Day games. I'm going to start with Detroit and Minnesota. The first matchup on the Thanksgiving Day slate does look interesting. The fact that we've got a putrid Vikings offense destroyed by injury this year, and also with best receiver Stephon Diggs looking likely to miss this game against an awful Lions defence, being opposed with a fairly good Lions unit offensively against an excellent Vikings defence. I don't see either team scoring a lot of points in the game, in all honesty. I think 42 for the total looks fair. I'm going to play the under the points in the total because I do think it will be a low-scoring game. I also do have a slight lean towards the Detroit Lions, which apparently is contrary to popular opinion. The line does keep moving against Detroit. Ultimately, I think that with Theo Riddick, they've probably got the key to the game here. If he can replicate what a terrible Chicago Bears team managed with Jordan Howard against the Vikings a few weeks ago on Monday Night Football, then Detroit should set up well, especially as they do negate the pass rush of the Minnesota Vikings, which is one of the Vikings' defense strengths, because Matthew Stafford has one of the quickest release times in football, getting the ball out of his hand, going to the receivers. I think that's going to make it almost impossible for the Vikings to lay a hand on him. With first place on the line in the division at home on Thanksgiving, I think I just trust the Detroit Lions a little bit more here. So I'm going to play 4 points on Detroit v Minnesota to go under 42 total points, and I'm going to throw 2 points at Detroit -1 as well. The second game on the day is the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins. I had no interest in betting on this game in terms of the point spread when it was at 7, but it has now moved to 6.5, and I'm happy to take the home team. This game does profile as a shootout. We've got a Washington passing offense performing at a very high level at the moment against an already poor but now banged up as well Dallas Cowboys secondary. The Washington rush defense, which is terrible, against the Cowboys offensive line, and obviously Ezekiel Elliott, who leads the league in rushing as well. Ultimately, I see this game, Washington will score points quickly. I fancy that the Cowboys defense has more chance of stalling the occasional drive more than the Redskins unit against Dallas. The Cowboys also have the ability to control the football and the clock in the fourth quarter. The key really on whether or not they'll get the cover is going to be probably Robert Kelly. He's the X factor. If he's as good as he's looked for the last 2 weeks, then the Redskins may finally be able to move the ball on the ground, which will add to their ability to close out games. The problem is, I just cannot see the Redskins stopping the Cowboys very regularly. It looks uphill, and at just under a touchdown, I'm happy to play Dallas at home -6.5, 4 points, and a bigger bet on the over 51.5 total points in this game, because I do think it's going to fly over that number. The other game I want to look at today is on Sunday. It's the New Orleans Saints hosting the Los Angeles Rams. We have the West Coast Rams travelling all the way across country to play in an early kickoff in the Dome in New Orleans, and the Rams just don't score points. They're the lowest scoring offence in the NFL this season, slightly ahead of the Chicago Bears. I don't really need to say a lot more on this game, really. Breeze and the Saints will score their points, even if they're playing against a solid defence. They proved that when they played the likes of the Denver Broncos. If New Orleans get to 24 points, which is the absolute bottom end of what I see for their scoring potential in this game, are the Rams going to score 17? The New Orleans Saints defence has been getting progressively better. I struggle to see the Rams scoring those points, and I think the Saints, with their improving defence and key players having returned in their secondary in recent weeks, can blow out the Rams in a bad spot for them. Obviously, I didn't post any plays last week because we'll call it my bye week, when I couldn't post any videos because of illness. I am slowly getting there now. Our record at the moment stands at 18, 23-1 in the NFL this year, and we are slightly down on the year, but still plenty of time to get that back into positive numbers. Looking at college football this week, obviously the games are spread over the Thanksgiving night game and then Friday and Saturday. For those of you that haven't watched the show before, I do compile ratings. As I've said many times, they do tend to get stronger as the season goes on. The ratings give me a strength that throw up plays against the lines, and give me a strength to bet between 1 and 7 points, with 7 being the strongest. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to list through the games that the ratings have thrown up this year. We obviously do a weekly accumulator as well each week. We haven't been doing that well against the number. We are 170 points down on the straight single bets this year, though we have copped one of our ACCAs, which gives us a profit of 81 points on the ACCAs this year, so we are just under 100 points down. With this week, next week in the bowl games, I'm still hopeful that we're going to end up in a positive number at the end of the season. this week's plays in college football are as follows. The big game obviously is number 2, number 3, Michigan, Ohio State. I'm going to have 4 points on Michigan, plus 6.5 to beat the Buckeyes in this game. I think Michigan will play them close, even with the quarterback conundrum they find themselves in. And I do think Ohio State will win the game, but I just don't see it being by a touchdown, to be perfectly honest. Washington against Washington State. I think the numbers are round about where it should be at 6, but the total I think is too high at 64 points. This is the strongest play of the week, 6 points on under 64 points in Washington at Washington State. Thanksgiving Day game. What have LSU got to play for now? I'll have 2 points on Texas A&M plus 6.5 to beat LSU, and I will throw a point on the money line Texas A&M to pull the outright upset as well. I'm going to have 1 point on Florida International plus 13.5. That line's moved against me. It was 14 to beat Old Dominion, and 3 points on under 62.5 total points in that game. 1 point on New Mexico plus 3 to beat Wyoming, and a point on New Mexico as well on the money line to pull the upset in that game. You know, the pressure's on for Wyoming now. They've obviously got to win that game, and let's see if what they're made of. Florida State against Florida. Florida don't score points. 3 points on Florida State minus 7.5 to beat the Gators in that game. Tulane against UConn. Neither of these teams can score, so I'm going to have a point on under 37.5 total points in that game. North Carolina State against North Carolina. You've got to love rivalry week, haven't you? 2 points on NC State plus 10.5 to beat UNC, and I'm going to play 4 points on under 59 total points in that game. I'm going to throw a point on Michigan State plus 12.5 to beat Penn State. That's obviously a key game for Penn State. Michigan State looking to play spoiler. 4 points on Wisconsin minus 14 to beat Minnesota and wrap up their position in the Big Ten title game. I'll play 1 point on South Florida minus 10 to beat University of Central Florida as well. Navy against SMU's got shootout written all over it. I will play 1 point on that one to go over 69 points in the game. USC against Notre Dame doesn't have the meaning that it, or the sort of importance that it would have had in previous years, but I will put a point on USC minus 17 to beat Notre Dame, and the final play of the weekend is going to be 1 point on Memphis plus 4 to beat Houston, and I'll stick a point on Memphis on the money line as well. The 2 point accumulator this week is going to be the under 64 points in Washington State, Texas A&M plus 6.5, Florida State minus 7.5, Wisconsin minus 14.5, and the Tulane and UConn game to go under 37.5. That pays odds of just over 25 to 1. A 2 point accumulator on that will return 53.12 points. Enjoy your turkey, enjoy your football, have a great weekend. I should hopefully be back to full health next week. Please do like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm here every week apart from when illness steps in throughout the season, and I will see you later. Best of luck if you're playing.